Hello everybody, welcome back to Road to Master. Hope you have an amazing day. We're starting off, we've got the Black Pieces against A1713 from Catalonia. I don't think I've heard of that country. Apologies for my terrible geography skills. Is that near Spain? Not quite sure. Anyway, E4, E5, and we've got Bishop's Opening. Now, I've been playing this a bit online, actually. That being said, it was in a bullet game. I'm not quite sure what to do here. Usually it ends up going into some sort of Italian. But I've been seeing this D3 line, which does sort of go into Italian, but it's also potentially like the Vienna, which we've seen previously. But I think what we can do is just a knight f6 here, so we're hitting this pawn. And apparently this is called the Berlin defense. No clue the significance of that name. Apologies. But yeah, this E3. Not E3, D3. And then we'll just continue with knight C6, I believe. And then push for a D5. We probably could have pushed D5 straight away. I don't see the point. And then they've played a C3. Now that's a bit of a weird one. And now I'm wanting to go with knight A5. Like we've seen in the Vienna that we played yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Gosh, it was a long time ago. I think knight A5. This is their best piece. This is their only piece they developed, so we would want to trade that off. So let's go for that. It's important to note that we've not pushed D3 or D5 or D6 or D5, sorry, because of the check. So it's important to note that. So I think we can just go ahead and play knight to A5. And they go for this, and I think we could get away with C6 here. With a B6, it's a possibility. Got to watch out for a B4 though. Although I'd rather trade off the bishop for the knight, which was the whole plan anyway. So after a B4, I'd be happy to take that. And then they take. It's doubling these pawns. And yeah, I think that's just fine. We do have to watch out a bit for tricks and traps. But C6 is also supporting the D5 push, so we would be able to take back that way. And I think a B5 here is in order as well. Yeah, and then we've kicked out the bishop, which was our whole sort of idea. Our whole sort of plan, basically. And now it's a pretty terrible looking bishop, which is all good for us. So this knight is misplaced now, and I think that's the whole idea of this little dance that we've done here, is to displace this knight. But I think now could be the time for a D5. Yes, it would be making this bishop a bit better. True, but it's also freeing up a spot for our worst knight. So it's interesting. As the word of the year is that. So let's go ahead with D5. We can play a bishop E7. If we take, we can go bishop B7. And this queen, not really sure what it's doing. At all, to be honest. I mean, what I would like to do is takes, put the knight there. That would be a pretty cool spot for it. Although you're getting kicked out pretty quickly. Bishop G4 is an option. I don't think they would play F3. That seems against what they're trying to achieve, so it'd probably be a knight move, at which point the pin's just all right for us. We're more than happy to take there, I think. Yeah, we could also push a B4, preventing them playing B4 themselves, and stopping a knight maneuver here. I'm not sure if we're threatening to take or not. And then we would probably want to push d4 and lock in this dark square bishop to a life of absolute misery. Would be ideal. Let's go ahead and push b4. I think that's what I'm sort of looking at the minute. Trying to play more demanding moves and try and make use of the initiative rather than just playing okay moves, you know, like actually looking for the key lines and the lines with the fighting chances. Because I think I sometimes play a bit passive, which is okay. It's okay. And they go knight there. So they're hitting this pawn, and it's important to note they're hitting it twice. What we could do is take with the take there, but that's not doing much. Or we could take the pawn straight away with like a bishop d6. Although then not really doing much there. If we take and then takes, and then takes and then takes, we're isolating this pawn. And if takes and then knight takes and then push, then we can cover this and be quite happy. Potentially. So maybe we start off with takes. Although takes, knight takes is interesting. Maybe like a queen d6 covers the pawn, hits the knight. And if they go bishop there, then I've got pawn there, which is devastating. Absolutely devastating. Because I've got takes with check. Not check, takes with promotes. So let's go ahead and do that. I think that's quite cool. Looks cool. Looks aggressive. And then this c6 pawn is if knight takes, it's doing a lot of work covering these squares. And they decide to take back there, and at which point I think I'm happy to just take. We do have to be careful, like not queen takes, knight takes here. Something doesn't quite seem right about that move. Not sure about you guys. Something doesn't quite seem right about that one. I think probably we'll just take the free queen, you know, and it could be a resignation from them. Yeah, we love to see it. We absolutely love to see it. But yeah, free queen. I think they probably meant to take with the pawn there, but accidentally had the queen. And we'll. It's a short video. We'll game review it, and then we'll look at some games in a bit more detail, especially the opening. So we got an 81 versus a 97.0, 2000 versus 2350, probably the highest rating I'll ever see. And we'll just go through the opening a bit. So this is all fine. A knight there, and then I felt c3 was a bit weird. I don't see why you can't just turn it into an Italian. I don't know what the c3 plan. It seems if you wanted to do c3 with a d4, why not just do that rather than playing a d3? It seems wasteful. But maybe they wanted the retreating square for the bishop. But usually you just let that happen and then free up your rook. So I'm not sure what the idea behind c3 was. To be honest, we'll never know. And then it wanted d5 straight away. Knight a5 isn't bad. We know that from the was it the Vienna we played the other day. It's not bad at all, with the idea of trading off their best and only developed piece, which can't harm. And then c6 is good. The computer wasn't a big fan of b5. Apparently d5 is better. But that just sort of looks like you're walking into a pin on the king, so you have to take back with the knight. Let's have a gander. let's have we can go a bit deeper in these because we've got time. So if they take, oh, queen takes apparently, and you're hitting that, so knight there, and then maybe a bishop out. You could push this pawn with takes, you're hitting the bishop. Potentially, you're getting a check, not a check, maybe an attack here on this pawn as well. So I can sort of see that. Because the bishop there doesn't allow queen takes, so you might as well do the queen takes while you can. And in the computer line, it's actually wanting to ignore that and go knight there. At which point you play b5 anyway, so you sort of do your plan. But you are a bit better because of it, because they've not got this knight move out. Or what move was it? Queen there, with the idea of hitting the pawn with the pin or whatever it is. But yeah. So we played b5 instead, and maybe it wasn't ideal, but it's forcing them to keep moving their bishop, you know, and I'm getting potentially some open lines, and I'm supporting this d4 break, so I didn't think it was too bad. The computer says it's dead level, 0-0s, and then we go ahead and play d5 anyway, so it's sort of the same thing, I guess, but without this knight move. And then queen e2, it looks sort of nice, but I don't think it's doing much. Obviously, they have the threats. I wasn't maybe a big fan of b4 in the end. Defending the pawn seems okay. Maybe like a queen move as well could have worked. b4, it seems yeah, it seems a bit unnecessary, maybe. Like, yeah, I like the idea of stopping the b4 push though, so maybe it's not that bad. b4, knight f3, yeah, and then this is basically the same thing that we've looked at, isn't it? Or is that b4? There we go. b4, knight f3, bishop a6. Oh, so you're pinning that to the queen, so then you're free to take, which is quite cool. So they take then, yeah, to avoid that. And then you let them have this pawn, which is wild. So you're covering this once, but they can still take. Oh, they decide to take that first, but you take with a check, and then you take the bishop. And then you castle just to get out of the way. And that seems like you're just down 2 pawns. Are you not down 2 pawns? I guess you get the 1 pawn back, so you're down a pawn. And white's just not wanting to take the pawn advantage for some reason. C takes, bishop d2 takes, knight takes, and then castles. Why can't they take this? Well, I guess if you've got the knight there, then you go queen there. So black sort of has to castle to get out of the way. So I guess after the bishop check and the knight takes, that is sort of forced actually. Yeah. And then d6 is one of those moves you just do to annoy your opponent, really. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to let you take and get your pieces to a better square. So if you're going to take it, I'm going to make you take it and put you on a worse square, if you get me. But we just ignore that, and apparently we just go for this pawn, which is quite a common little idea. Giving up the b2 pawn just to improve your position, because you're already up a pawn. Maybe it's a weak pawn. Who knows? Someone probably knows. But yeah, and then it is easy to sort of counterattack as well. Obviously, you've got to care for your bishop first. and this pawn, so I'm not sure how you would do that. Maybe a knight move, so your bishop gets covered. But anyway, yeah. Knight f3, we takes, which is fine. Again, the bishop pin seems good, apparently. We can have a look at that. E takes, similar thing. Very similar thing. In fact, identical thing. And we decide to take, which is still fine. It's still equal, but obviously it's not the computer line. Gosh, show moves. There we go. Bishop g5. Yeah. D takes. No, I want these show moves. There we go. Knight takes pawn. Yeah, so that's something to this discovered attack on the queen. We know about it. We covered it in the opening trap video. It's a very easy one to spot, I think. Oh, and that's interesting. Then you go for the bishop pin, so they can't take. And then you're not going to take because of the discovered attack sort of thing. Knight takes d3. You go takes d3 rather than any sort of discovered tactics on the king. You just go take the pawn back, which is fair enough, I guess, if it doesn't quite work. But yeah, they queen e7. Yeah, so that blocks the discovered. Then the knight moves. E takes, hitting the queen. Queen takes. Why can't the queen take? That is a... Oh, because then... No, but why can't the queen take? Queen takes. Bishop takes. ba4? ba4? Is that not just winning a piece? Oh, because, yeah, you've got the fork. Duh. Yeah. And then everything just sort of trades off. And it's a pretty symmetrical position. Both players have isolated pawns. Both players have the bishop pair. I would say white's probably slightly better. Just because they can castle straight away. And this knight's doing a bit more than this knight. So, maybe. But they didn't do that. They just sacrificed the queen for some reason. Not quite sure. And that's that. So we'll have a look at a game and see what the pros play and see if we can sort of comment on that. Try to get a win for black. Who we've got here? Yu Yang Yi versus Bu Zhang Shi something. I think wow, that's a long game. Whew! Well, you know how I said it was a short video? It's not going to be a short video because this is a marathon of a game. So this sort of transposes into a bit of an Italian, sort of symmetrical Italian. This knight isn't here. I forgot the name. Is it Guccio Piano? I don't know. I don't know the theory. I don't know the names. But it's a very, very symmetrical position. Only difference is the castle versus the knight out, but I believe that will just change. Or not. They go for the c3. Which apparently is something the pros would play. So maybe my opponent was just a professional. Who hung his queen. But we play a6, and we're looking to kick this bishop, I guess, with then a knight a4. Just to stop the check first. Which is smart. And white plays a4. Maybe just supporting the b4 push. Not quite sure. Or maybe just to grab space. And then this bishop a7. That's quite a common move. I see a lot of the time. Like, what's the word? Sometimes, like, in openings, you see them coming back here. So I guess this is a decent square for the bishop, which is weird. I get it, because it's targeting the king. and it's holding back the d4 square. But it's weird that you bring it out to here, then back, because it requires the a6 pawn push as well, which I guess you play in a lot of situations anyway. So I sort of get it. And then the knight to a3. Now this could go there, which is not going to do, or it could try go there, which I don't think it's going to do. Most likely it's going back to c2. That's quite a common maneuver that knight a3 comes with. Whether that happens or it's just maybe stopping the b5 push, I'm not quite sure. But black castles, and white's going for this pin with the bishop. And black goes for a bishop e6, so it's offering the bishop trade. I'm not sure if white wants to do this. Usually you sort of take these sort of trades, especially with like the queen behind it. Stuff in like the Caro or the London, I think, is a common one as well. This sort of bishop trade happens. And this pawn structure is not as bad as it seems for black because it's supporting the push, the d5 push. So I think black's happy with that, and I think white would be as well. And then at king h8, I will never, ever, ever understand these king h8, h1, a1 moves. The pros will call it prophylaxis. I call it wasting a move, but that's why they're the pros and I'm not. But yeah. And then b4, which we sort of saw coming with the a4 push, with the knight there potentially supporting that as well. And this bishop, oh gosh, we've lost it. We've lost it. Where are we? There we are. No, not that one. We've lost it. It was a win. For... no. Don't tell me you've properly lost it. Knight out. Oh, that was it. Found it. Where are we? Whoa, that skipped ahead a lot. Okay, 97. Yes, b4. We're back. We're back. Yeah, so it's supporting the pawn push, and this bishop trade is just hanging the whole time. So they drop the knight back, and that's, I guess, the purpose of the king h8 move, is that you're wanting to put the rook there and start an attack on the king with like a bishop h3 maybe. And if this knight can get to f4, this little journey here, or h4, I guess, if this knight ever moves, then it'd be quite nice. And again, this trade is still on, and it's still not bad for either side, I don't think. But again, the main purpose of this knight, while allowing this thing, is to just get out the way of the b5 push. And then white decides to break in the center, and I'm guessing that's just because they've seen black commit to this side. And when you sort of see your opponent looking to commit to one side, a good idea to do in general is to break open the center. So I'm guessing that's just the plan here, and maybe it's just the right time for it. The c3 pawn's still there supporting it. There's nothing really hitting this e4 pawn, and it's supported by the rook as well, so maybe it's just the right time. And the bishop trade is still on, although it is actually hanging. Oh no, it's not hanging, the knight is there, apologies. Knight g6. So I'm guessing that's just completing the maneuver now. I think black would still want to take with the g-pawn. But yeah, I mean, it's just developing, and it's covering the e-pawn, I guess. Which it goes ahead and takes. I'm a prophet. So you have now, this trade would not be ideal unless black takes this. If black takes the knight, then the trade will be fine because this pawn's actually supporting the f5 push. But that requires black trading the bishop for the knight, which likely isn't going to happen at this point. And white, I guess, sees that, so they go for it. And now you see they don't want to trade that because that will sort of fix the pawn structure. So they go ahead and leave these nasty pawns. That being said, it is stopping a lot of kingside pawn breaks. So maybe it's not as bad as it seems. And offers the bishop trade. And because there's nowhere else, you can't really decline it. If you try move the bishop back to b8, it's not doing anything the entire game. It's just hitting a dead wall there. So you have to sort of take it. It's sort of forced. And Black's not going to go ahead and... White's not going to go ahead and double their pawns as well. So they go ahead and take with a rook. And the queen trade is on. I don't think either side really wants to take because you're giving them control of the open file. And that's going to be quite key, really. Wow. Black sacks a pawn. Black sacks a pawn. Knight takes, rook takes. I don't know why, to be honest. I really don't know why. Maybe they're just fine with that being there because it's tying down the rook. Not quite sure. White plays h3, so I'm guessing that's just to stop the back rank mates. I don't think there technically are any at the minute. But it's a good move, and it stops the knight coming in hitting the rook as well. So the queen goes now to support this pawn and potentially get the rook onto d8 to take control of the open file. And White's knight moves. Why it's moved? I don't know. Maybe it's just to let the rook in. But then you blocked off your queen. So I'm not quite sure what that was. And then they play a5. And this is absolute crazy town here on these pawns. It requires so much calculation. The problem is if you take, then you're letting the other rook into the calculation as well. So that's got to be considered. So yeah, it's wild. And I think that is probably the better move, going in rather than the other way and you're letting the rook in. There you're letting both rooks in, so they sort of cancel each other out. Black takes with the queen. And then this looks sketchy for Black. I don't know how Black managed to win this one. White just trades off the pawn. And I guess this is weak. So it's covered by the rook though. And the queen can step in quite easily as well. So I'm not sure what Black's plan is. That seems maybe okay. You're hitting this, but it is controlled by the queen. I don't know if they're looking to push or anything. White goes ahead and moves their rook to the open file. Sure. I don't see why not. And the king moves. Another move I will never ever understand. And Black decides to give themselves some space, stopping the back ranks as well. And from this point on, I'm not sure at all what either side's plan is. I guess White's hunting these. And Black decides to give him this pawn for these checks. Although I don't see that working really. Not sure. But g3 looks sketchy to me. I thought g3 would be your escape square, if anything. But apparently that's fine. And Black's hitting the queen and hitting this pawn as well. So where's it going to go? The knight blocks in front of it, which is fair comment. And now you've got this awkward pin sort of situation. So the knight's pinned to the queen, and the rook's tied down to defending the knight. And so is the queen as well. So it's really awkward. And then maybe like a knight maneuver or something. I don't know if they could take this e4 pawn. That requires calculation. But Black's sort of happy to shuffle here and just slowly make their position better. And keep the pressure on the knight. Hitting the rook. Why? Oh, the rook's covered by the queen. Duh. And yeah, just keep shuffling. If White takes, then Black's sort of happy because they've got their rook behind this pawn. And this knight's doing the lord's work. And I think you're just losing a pawn here. Really. Eventually. You can't really stop it. So White goes to play on the king side. But the proximity of the black king, these aren't really a threat that much, I don't think. White has some checks, but I don't think that's too big a deal. And Black decides to finally cash in on the free pawn. And goes after this pawn now, which I don't see why not. And this is interesting. So you're giving up this pawn, in order to get this pawn, what you get from that, I guess you're losing this one as well. I'm not quite sure what you get from that. You get the check first, and then take the rook rather than the knight. I'm guessing that's just to keep control over the e-pawn. So what black doesn't want to trade knights, because that just basically forces it into a dead draw. So if anyone has any advantage here, they would want to keep all the pieces on the board, especially the knights. And black picks up the free pawn as well, and it's going to be very hard to defend this. A lot of shuffling, slowly getting the pieces better. And this is an interesting one, because this knight's covered by the pawn, but the pawn's under attack. So black sort of has to cover that. And this is what move are we on here? 59. Ooh. How do you defend this? You got to go knight there, but then rook there seems scary. Yeah. They don't go for that though. Oh, because you can throw in some... No, that doesn't work. Huh. And then white picks up that pawn as well. And apparently that's the end. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's a complicated one. Way beyond my ability, to be honest. Way beyond my ability. But yeah, short game. It's always a bit of a shame when someone blunders, especially if you think you've got a nice position, which I did. It's always a bit of a shame. But what can you do? I'll take the 3 points. Thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. Please like if you liked. Please subscribe if you really liked. And I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Bye-bye.